They tried to shut him out. He's making a way, and we're helping him do that and get him on. I would just like you to, I would like my husband to show you the ballot. So go ahead. We have a ballot here real quick, and I'll just show you where we'll be on this ballot.
Now you know what my job is. Call me Dean, boy.
Okay, this will not, you have the main parties up here, Democrat, Republicans. Used to be Republican at the top, but the Democrats have taken over in the state. It really doesn't matter, I've been told, where these things pass these two parties line up. The average voter goes in and just checks what they want. The taxpayer party line, I want to clarify, right now it's just a line. It's nothing. It has no teeth. It has no power. It won't have any teeth or power unless we get 50,000 votes on it in November 2nd, yes. Then it will become a party, but no different than any of these others right here. So go ahead.
How many official parties are there in the state of New York? Anybody know that? Correct. There's 5 official parties in the state of New York. There is the Democrat, Republican, the Independent, the Conservative, and the Working Family. Those are the only official parties in the state of New York. They are official parties because in the last governor's election, one of their candidates, or their candidate on the ballot, got 50,000 votes. That's what makes an official party in the state of New York. A lot of people don't realize, but the conservative party in New York is the conservative New York Party. It is not in any other state in the United States. There are 3 conservative parties in the United States, and the conservative party in New York is not affiliated with any other national conservative organization. There are 5 people, I believe, that started the conservative party in New York in 1962. The exact same thing that we're trying to do right now, start a taxpayer line. But below this is the presidential ballot for last year. Below this, working families, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other lines. They're the socialist workers, the socialism and liberation, the green, the libertarian, and the populist. Those are just lines. Those candidates got enough signatures to get on the ballot in that election. But they didn't get 50,000 votes, so they're not official parties in the state of New York. So the taxpayer party that we're getting people to give us signatures for to try to get these guys on the ballot is simply going to appear on the ballot as a line. If they get the votes, then they'll become an official party in the state of New York. And we're trying to get them to put candidates up that will be a reckoning force that are true conservative candidates, and that's the intent of this. The reality is, for Tea Party patriots, is that if we all get behind this taxpayer line and this taxpayer candidate, and Carl Palladino, the governor candidate, has to get 50,000 votes. If Carl Palladino gets those 50,000 votes in this election in November on the taxpayer line, he becomes the official party in the state of New York. In the next election cycle, all those Republican and Democratic candidates that won on that line are going to have to go to Carl Palladino or his people and ask them to allow them to be on that line. And they're going to be able to vet those candidates and find out, are they true conservatives? So there's different ways we can affect the cycle. We can get into the committeemen positions in the Republican and Democratic parties and try to affect change there. I was told by my good friend back in the back of the room, there's 200 and some odd seats, committee seats in Orange County alone. Do we have 200 and some odd people who can get on committee seats in Orange County alone? I think we as Tea Party groups and patriot groups can have more change by getting this taxpayer line going in the state of New York and putting up true conservative candidates in coming elections, and working to get into committeeman positions in other parties to try to put up conservative candidates in those elections as well.
I have a quick question in conjunction to this. Are you saying that if Palladino is running on Republican and the taxpayer party, everybody should vote for him on the taxpayer as opposed to Republican?
No candidate has won the governor's election in the state of New York. I've been told since the 70s, I've also been told ever, I'm not sure what the answer is, but I know it's at least the 70s, without having a second line. So if Carl Palladino wins the Republican primary, he would appear on the Republican line and the taxpayer line.
But if we vote, we should vote for him on which line?
If he's on those two lines, you should vote for him on the taxpayer line, because both votes count. It doesn't matter if you vote for him as a Republican or as a taxpayer, both votes count. But if he's on both lines, and he gets 50,000 votes on the taxpayer line, it becomes an official party in the state of New York. And the more votes it gets, the higher it is on the ballot. Okay? So Democrat, Republican, Independents, that means Independents got more votes in the last governor's election than anybody below. So,
Yeah.
But I believe last election, the Independent Party got about 144,000 votes,
okay.
and I think they beat out the Conservatives.
You have to understand that right now, it doesn't look like this is amounting to much. And you're hearing all this rhetoric, split the vote, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're asking you to get beyond that. That's party. That's party stuff because there's power involved in this. And think about it from a principle standpoint. This taxpayer's line, if it gets 50,000 votes, will be on the ballot for the next election. Starting in 2011, I'm told, those candidates wanting to run in 2012 will look at the taxpayers line and look at the Tea Party, and they'll be coming for our endorsement. And we'll be saying, well, let's see if you line up to our platform here, because you know what? We've had it with the Republican platform and the conservative platform and the this and that. This is our platform, and we're not just giving our endorsements away, you know, for freely.
And our mantra at Orange Sullivan 912 is principle over party. The Democrat and Republican parties take party over principle. I ask you to start thinking more about your principles than your party, and vote with your heart and what you think is right, instead of just voting for the candidates that the party puts up. And that's why a primary has been forced for the first time since 1994, because the parties are not putting candidates up that we agree with.
Yeah, it's really they have brought this on themselves, and that's what I told that conservative chairman, to stop putting up liberal candidates.
I have a question. Primary coming up in September.
14.
What's the latest you can register for party?
You can change your registration, and that's the other thing. Really, so many of our people were disenfranchised. But it will not.
Too late for now.
It's too late now.
Yeah.
Too late.
And we have to
That's what
educate
happened
people
with
about
Levy.
that.
As I understand, Levy was a registered Democrat. He switched to Republican, but he's not officially a Republican until I think 8 or 9 days after the general election. So if you switched your party now, you would not be an official member of that party until I think 9 days after the general election in November.
Like future reference, you know, we can take it upon ourselves, like, let's register as Republicans so we can have some sort of choice, you know, picking their candidates, so our conservative values in the future. You know?
But none of us knew any of it. I didn't know any of this a year ago. None of us thought this
But
far a year
there
ago.
are two main parties in the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats. These other parties are feeder platforms that simply feed the candidates and support the candidates from those two parties. Ultimately, our goal should be to force the Republican Party, or if you're a Democrat, the Democratic Party, to put candidates up that look like us.
And let me just say this, when has the Democrat Party ever put up a pro-life, fiscally conservative? I mean, when are they going against their party platform and putting up right-wing candidates? They don't. It's really the Republican and the conservatives that are doing that, and so they have forced this upon themselves. And I guess you can see the passion in us for it, because we feel like if we're going down the tubes, we might as well go fighting and saying we're going to fight for the citizens, for the taxpayers, and for the Tea Party and the grassroots.
One other tidbit of information, Tea Party stands for Taxed Enough Already. There was a vetting process on naming this party, and the decision was made to call it the Tea Party line. But there is a candidate, supposedly in Florida, that has a registered trademark on Tea Party. And they were concerned about lawsuit and getting all involved in a lawsuit instead of an election. So they chose taxpayer line instead, tax being the first letter
Thank you.